So I'm going to welcome everyone to the Bridge the Ballot Virtual Artist Talk, October 9th. And we had our reception 2 weeks ago, and we had an artist talk last week. And tonight we feature Malik Seneferu, Tiffany Conway, and Tony Tamayo. And I just want to briefly go over house cleaning, housework. Friday night, we made it. Next week, we also have our last artist talk featuring Rebecca Garcia Gonzalez, Tatiana Ortiz, and myself. And we will be recording these talks. Also, we have the panel discussion on the talk. And I just want to share a little bit about myself, but we're not here to talk about me. We're going to keep it brief. Artist for 20 years. I have been an advocate, sitting on the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission, the Public Art Advisory Committee. I also have been an educator teaching at the Academy of Art University, UC Berkeley Extension, and also Walnut Creek Art Center. I've done the tour of the Bay Area. But if I died tomorrow, I hope on my gravestone it says at least she tried. I do believe in giving everybody a fair and equal chance and really reimagining and rebuilding the art structures and the art world to be more inclusive and to represent the students that are in my classes, represent the advocacy, the people that I see creating the wonderful work in the community. And I'm really proud to be able to have this opportunity despite COVID, despite an economic downturn, systematic racism, you add the list. We're here today to talk about Bridge the Ballot. But one thing that makes it really important that I will always mention each week is it's important to have partners. And partners like Bridge Art and Storage Space and having the East Bay Express write about this exhibit, I will turn blue in the face, always saying that a healthy democracy is when we have journalists, where we have platforms for artists to really do their work and speak their truth. And without these platforms, it makes it even more difficult and has more obstacles to it. So I never take for granted these partnerships that we have, and I hope that these partnerships will grow on and on and on forever. So why this exhibit? The artist introductions, questions, and closing. Well, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but we have an election coming up in 25 days. If you've noticed on the news or anything. And I think what really inspired me with this work is bringing back the perspectives and from local community artists and really amplifying the responsibility of one's vote. And Bridge the Ballot connects that personal experience with issues important to Richmond artists. And we want to take it out of the hands of PACs and propaganda and bring it back to what people are doing today in the community. So I'm not going to read to you what I have here, and I'm going to let the artists share who they are and their background. And Malik, amazing Malik, can you please share your background? If you want to unmute.
Yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. So my name is Malik Seneferu. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. Grew up all over the Bay Area, but I spent most of my life growing up in San Francisco. My mother, I was born and raised throughout spent most of my life in Hunters Point, but lived in several different areas throughout in other parts of the Bay Area. Growing up in the financial desert, my story is quite, it's packed with several different things. So what I have to say there is that it has been quite a role. I've been a teacher, I've been an educator, I'm a cultural facilitator, but for the most part, my mantra is remain creative. So I'm all over the internet. You know, I became a father in 2000. Oh, well, actually in 1999, I became a father. And my son, he's now a growing artist, and he's in his third year in college. Also, was pretty much the teacher of the house when it comes to art. So my wife is also a beautiful artist as well, and has made her way in the world, creating an organization called the Black Woman is God. Also, for me, I've been working on a workshop and podcast called Remain Creative. So that's my mantra, what I'm well known for. And my internet activity spans all the way back to maybe 1998 when I was trying to get online and trying to build my own website. So that's pretty much the span. But my career goes back to 1988 when I started my career, actually by way of the community, doing portraits of family members in the community and things of that sort. And also the tenant associations hiring me to teach my peers some of the things I knew. So that's in a nutshell a collage of a series of things that I engage in the community.
I think when I saw this quote of yours, Malik, the communal discourse is a way to have our voices heard.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, communal discourse. You know, I try to use my art as a way of, you know, many times in growing up in African American communities, you know, a lot of us don't really see very few of us see a value in creating art as a way of engaging the community. A lot of times it may be, you know, creating music, which I'm also a musician, but you know, creating music has been a way that we've been able to introduce ourselves to the world. Often visual artists aren't in pretty much most communities in America aren't necessarily easily nodded at. But you know, we travel outside of the U.S. and get all of the good accolades. So I had the opportunity to travel to have my artwork to travel to Durban, South Africa, war against racism and xenophobia. I've had, and that was in 1998, I think, or 94. I think it was 94. And then I went to Haiti and was going to be hired in Haiti to do a series of murals around Haiti, but they put an embargo on Haiti. So that kind of stopped my stuff there. So I've had a lot of about to happens in my career. I think we all probably had that going on, you know, but I've had a lot of great about to happens and some really great people involved in it. And so a huge part of my life is about losing and creating to fill the void. So I've lost a lot of my family members. I'm pretty much among the oldest in my family here in California. And so people might wonder, why is he is just creating so much, you know, and I try to, all of the love that I have for my family, I create that energy to put it out for the people out around me to create this, to fill that void of loss. So.
Yeah, I first met you at the Art and Windows.
Right, Richmond.
With Richmond Main Street. And I remember Amanda Elliott saying, "You have to meet Malik." You got to meet Malik. He's one of the best Richmond artists. And then I met you and I'm like, well, of course he is. I mean,
Thank you.
And right.
You know, that how I came in contact with Amanda, and it turns out we knew each other all along. But I don't know if you know of Ramona Samuels.
Oh.
Yeah, Ramona Samuels actually was the predecessor to Amanda Elliott. And so she was the one who was saying, you know, I want you to work with me on putting together a Juneteenth. Now, this was back in like 2006, 7, and 8. We were working on this, and then she passed away. And so, like I said, a lot of losing and about, you know, but with that being said, you know, there was a lot of great relationships formed through that. Of course, the amazing Amanda Elliott, who does a lot of work for the Main Street Initiative, and I just wanted to really do the same thing I was doing in San Francisco, which was bring my creative voice and story to the city of Richmond, which is really a sister city to my neighborhood, Bayview Hunters Point, which has a shipyard. It has a point. It has a bay view. You know, so it's quite an amazing parallel there.
It is. And I'm glad you touched on that, and also just the community work and that network and how important those platforms are. And we have to continue supporting them. And then, of course, at the Richmond Arts Center, you've exhibited numerous times there. I can't even count how many times, probably 20.
My first, you know, amazing. My first exhibit happened by way of Joe Sam. I don't know if anybody here knows Joe Sam, but Joe Sam was an important person in terms of my career. He was sort of like a surrogate father to me in a sense, you know. But Joe Sam, he introduced me to the Richmond Arts Center by inviting me to be a part of this show called The Lineage, called the Artistic Lineage 60-year anniversary of the Richmond Arts Center. And so when they had that, I was able to really be connected with all of the luminaries, because you have luminaries and their protege. So I was a protege of Joe Sam back in the day and stuff, and we did a lot of amazing work. He was the reason why I was able to go to Haiti, you know. So quite an amazing relationship.
Well, we're fortunate for those opportunities and what you've brought to Richmond, Malik. I just want to thank you personally.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And Tiffany, I see you down there in the corner.
Another amazing artist there.
Right? Hi, Tiffany.
I was talking that whole time, thought I was.
Don't you love when that happens? Well, welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you. It's really great to hear about your story, Malik. Like, you've been an inspiration for me for quite a while. So thank you for, you know, sharing your story. Well, I mean, thank you. That good old Zoom delay.
Exactly.
So for me, I would say that I'm like half self-taught and half I have some training in school. I went to the Academy of Art for a year. You know, I did some time in the Peralta colleges, you know, Laney and Merritt, and all that jazz. So I do have some training, but for the most part, you know, for like the last maybe 6 years, I've been, you know, teaching myself essentially. But I've always been like a creative person. I would say that like I was a closet creative for a majority of my life. And I want to say like back in, you know, 2011 is when I really started to allow that side of me to kind of come out a little bit more and flourish. So I've been painting for quite some time. And I want to say probably within the last 2 or 3 years is when I really started to get out there and show my work and attend festivals and have my art there, for the public to view.
Mm.
Um, and
Speaking of view, I took that picture.
that was a good picture. That was a really fun show too. I think that was the first time that I got to know like some of the artists in Richmond and, kind of hear about their type of art and why they do what they do. So that was exciting.
How long have you been painting?
So it's hard to like put a real date on it, but I say that I started taking myself seriously around 2015. uh, so 2015 is kind of when I came up with my hashtag called Project Get Free. And I started documenting my art process, via Instagram around that time. And it's really just began to blossom from there. For me, like Project Get Free is a word. It's basically affirming myself in my journey. Like while I've been painting, I've also, have held down regular jobs in corporate America and in startup culture. And, Project Get Free is kind of like a reminder of like, okay, well, Tiffany, that's temporary. You got to start transitioning into the art world.
That means you're a smart business person and artist and creative. And I think we all know that, right?
Oh,
To survive.
Thank you. So yeah, I think my work started. I didn't necessarily have like a game plan. Like when I was in school, I learned the basics and things like that. But when I actually took my painting classes, I was I wasn't doing very well in them. I didn't have the patience to there's always that kind of ugly in between, a layer or two or three, and then it starts to get really good, especially when you're working with things like oils. So like in the very beginning, I just didn't have the patience to like to work from a reference or paint a subject. And I was just doing a bunch of wild and crazy abstract paintings, which were a lot of fun. But in 2015, I really started to hone in on teaching myself how to paint people. And from there, I want to say that the work that I've created is more of what I call a visual journey, but I don't always use myself as like the subject matter. And, in this process of like me taking myself seriously as an artist, I've had a lot of growth, professionally and spiritually. And I've chosen to kind of use that as a narrative in my work, is documenting my spiritual growth. And what I like most about not using myself as the subject is seeing like who gravitates towards my pieces, that's really fun. And in terms of like how I work, I try my best to really just work with intuition and spirit, and it usually works out best that way. And then I always find, the real meaning to the work once it's done. So.
Well, congratulations at your age to find the meaning in your work. I keep on searching and hope to find it before I pass away. But congratulations, Tiffany. Tony, I love your colored background. It's like I want to go out and party and hang out there.
Thank you.
If you'd like to share a little about who you are.
Sure. So I was actually born in Oakland, raised in Berkeley. I went to elementary school in Berkeley. Then we started moving around. I lived in places like Turlock, Madera, Fresno, Clovis. For those who are not aware, it's like Central Valley, California. So I graduated high school in Fresno, and I came out here to Richmond in late 2015. But I would say I started getting into art around 2009. I caught myself sketching in the back of class, not being the best student, but sketching. And then I took an art class. My sketching turned into painting. My painting turned into doing big projects for school. And that's where it kind of all began for me. So yeah, around 2015, late 2015, we made the big move from Fresno to Richmond. Didn't have any family in Richmond, knew nothing about Richmond. I came out here blank. I heard a lot of bad things about Richmond. That's all, because I have family in like Berkeley and Oakland, so they're definitely not a fan of Richmond. And once I started out here, I remember our first job was at Macy's in Hilltop, and I had no car, and I live kind of close to BART station, so every day I'd walk to go catch the bus to get to Hilltop. And I remember passing that big piece up top that says, what is it? Richmond, the city of the second chance.
Yeah.
That big sculpture there. Every day I would see it, and started believing in it. And the money started rolling in from these jobs and stuff. Got myself a camera. Before I was actually taking pictures with an iPad, and I also had an LG G4 phone that I got just to take pictures because I thought it was awesome. Before I knew it, I had a bicycle, I had a phone plan, and I had a camera. So I'd Google Maps every little location I could find in Richmond, and just started going there, on my bike with my camera, and that's kind of how it all started for me. And then after that, it just, that picture on the bottom, it should be your bottom left corner.
Right here.
I put it out there I think it was on a Facebook group. And from there, I got a lot of great feedback, and I kind of just took it more seriously and began, just doing a lot of work. And to this day, I have about 700 photos, Richmond scenery in the street, and 2018, I believe, I launched my website called freerichmondphotos.com. It's down since, but I had it up for a few months. And basically what it was is I broke down all my photos into neighborhoods in Richmond, and I had it free to download, because when I would go to Google Maps, when I would go to Google search engine, I type in Richmond, it's just a lot of pictures of the bridge, a lot of pictures of just things like that. And I really wanted a place for people to, if they're doing a school presentation or something like that, to really grab some real Richmond photos, I would say.
It's pretty incredible. And you were part of Art and Windows.
Yeah.
Remember?
I do. That's where we met.
Frames, right? I don't know if you remember that experience.
Yeah, I do remember. That's where I met you and Michelle.
Yep, and your time as I don't know if you wanted to share briefly about your time being a Richmond Arts and Culture Commissioner.
Yeah, definitely. So I met Michelle and Jenny there at Art and Windows, and there we kind of had to establish some relationship. Later on, they told me about the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission. I decided to apply, I believe, later on that year or so.
Yep.
And my journey began as a commissioner, and it was great. Everyone there was so helpful. I took on a role as kind of this social media revamp, made that logo for the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission. and kind of just try to beef up their the online digital presence, and that was a blast.
You brought us back to that year, the current century. So thank you.
Also, some great opportunities too.
Thank you, Tony, for making us current.
I had lots of fun.
Oh, yeah, you were great. And so I love the City of the Second Chance, right?
Right, yeah, and again, it just goes back to that, it goes back to just that experience I had walking every day to the bus station, and kind of this progression. And looking back now, I'm just able to see how, those baby steps up until I was able to kind of just get to where I'm at now. A little bit more cameras than I had before, a little bit more skills than I had before, and a lot new friends than I had when I first got here. And these are just some of the pictures that I took more recently, keeping in mind this year we're going through, this crazy year we're going through. You had that apocalyptic smoke, which is on that top left corner. That's by Nystrom Elementary. I'm sure plenty of you guys are familiar with that. The band at the bottom left, it says the American Dream. And it's, things like that. At the bottom, you have the state capitol. I went there a night after some protest. And there's a guy with a mask. It was that day after, I believe, Gavin Newsom announced that we were ditching the old system of COVID. Like before, it was like, now it's like a bunch of colors or whatever. Before it was like stage this and that. So I decided the title "Instructions Not Clear." You had that guy in a mask, and then you had a bunch of people not wearing masks, and it's just. And next to that, you have the people hate you. That's the people of Sacramento there the night after the protest. That's what that's what the sentiment was, and probably will be. And I can definitely see why. And then finally, I have a more personal one, which is my nephew who I live with, starting his first day of elementary online.
Wow.
And things like that are tough,
It is. We're grateful for you to be here, to be able to show us this, Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're going to discuss some questions tonight, like what is the concept behind your artworks? What is your connection to Richmond, which I think some of you addressed, but to elaborate more, and how does art highlight current events and address social issues? And how can artists be supported now into the future? When we compare ourselves to other countries and how much they invest in artists, I think we need to demand that moving forward. So Malik, if you wanted to sort of describe sort of this concept behind this work and what is your connection to Richmond, especially the title.
Aesthetic ascension.
Right.
It's quite I know when we started putting this show together, it was far before all of this stuff was happening. And to now talk about this concept of aesthetic ascension and the current hat that the orange man wears. I'm just going to say that, excuse my expression. But the idea of this aesthetic ascension is this rise of beauty, this internal beauty. And so you see the colors and the outline. The portrait is actually of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who had this movement called Back to Africa. And this idea was, Africa for Africans. And he had a really ambitious idea on how, since there was just so much tyranny that Black people were even experiencing then in the 30s and in the 40s and things of that sort, that, it was just like, if you don't want us, we'll just go somewhere else where we're highly desired. There was a huge group of Black people that did go to Africa. There's a group of Black people who created their own nation called Liberia in North Africa, and also pretty much highly populated today, what is known as Ghana, and also Tanzania. And so there's thousands and thousands of African Americans that are there in Africa today. So I thought, you know, his movement that he really wanted to push together was just, you know, to kind of this seeking of this sense of this sense of peace, you know, in terms of in the development of, you know, Black families and being able to share their life and culture with the world. You know, that was the idea, and we were constantly living in a world that was not necessarily designed for us to really share anything about ourselves, rather than to make money for the big business and corporations, and just keep on chugging out. Otherwise, you're not of any worth. So
Yeah.
that's you know, prison, the school to prison pipeline that has happened throughout the 80s, which, you know, I was born in the early 70s, and grew up through the 80s. Just kind of watching my community, more so the family structure, go into shambles. You know, we were already struggling. I don't know if anybody has heard of the video. It's a documentary called "Take This Hammer," and it was put together by James Baldwin, where he came to visit my neighborhood, Bayview Hunters Point, and it was at that time the most poorest place in the country. And it was just, it was a lot of young Black men at that time that were really kind of complaining and really expressing that disdain with the city that has totally turned their back on them. So that's really sort of that flair that I really kind of look. So if you look in the background, you'll see there's a red, black, and green flag. You'll see that there's these Africa symbols in the background. There's also the iconic figure of the arrows that is well known for a lot of my earlier works. The arrows is sort of like this Sankofa, which is from the Andinkra group of people, society of people in West Africa, where the term Sankofa, it's okay to go back for what you lost, or go back to fetch your past so that you can build your future. That's this idea. And then in the eyes, you'll see this sort of visual look. And so this series of work was inspired by Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions album. That, you know, I grew up with albums, you know, where you can look at the album and see all this amazing artwork. And, you know, I wanted to grow up hopefully creating artwork on albums. And I did, but they weren't albums, they were CDs. So it's like I said, from losing and gaining, it's just an amazing time to be in. But with that, I was actually trying to parallel doing a little bit of abstraction balanced with some representationalism. I was really trying to go further into the abstraction, but not making such a quick jump to that. So you see the grassroots, which you see the bush representing Jamaica, representing representing Haiti and all those other places that fought against tyranny and terrorism and things of that sort. And at the bottom, you see the 5 stars. You know, 5-star in American military is often represented by a general, a high decorated general in that sense, 5-star. And so he's kind of like a general to sort of our, you know, to who we become here and how we look at our concept of being unified in such a time where we're constantly being spread apart, you know, just being separated and so on so many levels. So I mean, there's so much in this that actually you begin seeing in my later work, which I'll be showing you a little bit down the line. My connection to Richmond on on the other hand, was
I'm sorry about that. That's my fault.
my connection to Richmond was really about me and my wife finding a place we were interested in buying our first home. It was 2005, the housing boom, and we got right in at the nick of literally the skin of our teeth. And we were able to get into the house, but we've been working ever since, trying to keep it, and it's a work in progress, still working at it, keeping it together. But I really fell in love with, it was funny because I was coming to Richmond a lot. I'm also a martial artist. I was coming to Richmond to actually.
You're a martial artist? I didn't know that.
A lot of things I kind of, but yes, I'm martial artist. So I trained martial arts for over nearly 30 years, and there was a really grandmaster, Wally J, one of my inspirational persons. He was a teacher for Bruce Lee for a minute, but he did a workshop right down the street at the Veterans Hall, and I was a part of the demonstrations of him being there. And my teacher, James Hunden, who's one of his top students, brought me to that at that time. So I was there and I received a degree there.
Wow.
And so then years later, like maybe almost a year later, I would find that I actually moved right down the block from there in Richmond. And, like I said, that connection was really kind of being in San Francisco, Bayview Hunters Point, and finding in Richmond that there's a Bayview, finding that there's a point, that there's this shipyard, and so I had to do my spiritual work on it, but I found that there was one, West Oakland, which I did a lot of work in West Oakland, Hunters Point, and Richmond Shipyard, and I called it the Diamond Triangle, trying to put together the communities to do some creative work. And so I've been kind of moving to all of those places to make connections in that manner. So this work, Aesthetic Ascension, is me. I started it in 2002. It's acrylic on canvas. All of my work, all of my paintings are pretty much acrylic. I started out doing oils. I'm really good at it, but as a young person, a teenager starting out oils, I couldn't, because I was born with asthma.
Yep.
Being born with asthma, that turpentine was real serious, and I just couldn't keep that around me, especially the breathing paintings right there haunting my lungs type of thing, so I couldn't do that. But what I did was I took an oil painter's headspace on approaching acrylics, and so a lot of my realistic paintings sort of look like oil paintings.
They're incredible, and you're a Bay Area legend.
Oh, wow.
You are part of the fabric of this community throughout the Bay Area.
I'm still working at it. I still have a little youth in me, so.
Yeah, we're gonna make it. Speaking of painters, Tiffany, if you'd like to sort of share your concept behind this work and your connection to Richmond, and this is the oil paint on canvas, and we are our ancestors.
Yeah, so I was inspired by, seeing the uprising and protesting, after the shooting of George Floyd, and just really really excited to see the whole world stand behind the Black community and finally see what we've been experiencing and carrying with us that they've, ignored for decades now. And I wanted to kind of, I wanted to show in the different ways in which our ancestors are carried with us. So whenever I'm talking about our ancestors or talking about spirit, I typically use some form of an African mask to represent that energy. And I wanted to have this young man be surrounded by his ancestors in two different ways. So that means, you know, his friends that are with him, that are behind him, their faces are kind of flattened and simplified in a way that African masks usually are. And on his shirt that has a mask, I wanted to actually bring that mask to life. Because, you know, spirit is with you everywhere you go. It's in you, it's around you, it's next to you. And there has been this kind of thing happening, you know, on the socials where people are saying like, we're not our ancestors, we'll, you know, beat you up or something like that. But when I see that, that infuriates me to a degree, because when I think about this, all the things that our ancestors have been through, like, there's no way that I would have been able to endure what they have endured in order for me to get here and lay in my bed and be on a Zoom call. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's an insult to your lineage when you say things like that. So on the flip side, I just wanted to quite honestly react to the world reacting to what we continue to go through, and to make something that is positive.
Yeah, I agree.
So my connection.
Oh, that's
sorry.
hard. That was my fault. I apologize.
No worries. My connection to Richmond is that, you know, I was raised here for, you know, a good portion of my life. My family is from Richmond. I have a lot of family here. I went to elementary school here. I went to high school here. You know, now in this part of my life, I now live in Richmond after kind of, you know, moving around and about in the Bay. I've landed back here currently. I think Richmond has so much potential in it, and it could, you know, it's kind of like the Bay's best kept secret. Well, not a secret anymore because, you know, gentrification. But, you know, in hindsight, I think that there's so much that Richmond, you know, has to offer in terms of community and family. And this is a family town, you know. And yeah, I think that it's slept on.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I like that you mentioned it being a family town.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that over the years from different communities and people. And so I think you're absolutely right on that. This is incredibly powerful work, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Tony, can you share the concept behind this work and elaborate a little bit more on your background with Richmond?
Sure. So this specific piece kind of just goes back to pretty much the grind. Coming from Fresno, which is a little bit slower paced, to over here, where everything is just like you have to move or else you're out. You know, with this picture here, every time I go out and take a picture, like I'm already thinking of how I'm going to edit it in my head. Most of my pictures are edited to some extent. They have, you know, added colors, or I'll add something to it because, you know, I feel like as I'm walking around these places, you know, there's always stuff going on, especially in my life with, you know, family members and other stuff going on, to where I almost feel like I'm walking around in third person.
Mhm.
And being able to, keeping busy has always been my escape. And now that I have, and when I got a camera, I was able to kind of photograph and document. And this picture, with the BART, kind of just perfectly captured, kind of the grind and hustle mentality. I've had night shift jobs, day shift jobs, you name it. And all I see is, working people, 2 a.m, going to the bus stop, 5 a.m, going to work. And I just, this picture here, I was just walking by and I thought, wow, it would just be, this is kind of it. I pass through the street every day. My neighbors pass through the street every day. So many working people pass through the street every day. And, that's kind of the idea behind that. And a lot of my art is just, I wish I could say I was present everywhere I am, but I'm kind of always in this third person view, which kind of, gives me a different perspective on stuff. My connection to Richmond, I thought I had none. I thought my family and I were new here. But 2 years into being over here, my dad and my godfather were hanging out, and they were telling me about they had a butcher shop on 23rd Street and I think Market. So turns out they would hang out in Richmond a lot, bars and all. So I feel like it didn't, to me, it's new. To my dad, it was not. And I feel like, some of his energy and kind of his past experiences kind of just transferred over to me, to where I was able to just, really kind of get accommodated to Richmond and really just dive into the people and the places and start doing my community work.
Interesting, the story about your father and that collection and different memories, but in a different space and time, and in that relationship between father and son, right?
Yeah.
Wow. This has been, when I think of pictures of Richmond that have been copied and taken off the internet and replaced, I'm like, you didn't attribute Tony to that photograph, and I know that's Tony's photograph.
I still see it. But now that on Instagram, there's a lot of nice people out here who will not be afraid to comment my name under under some pictures and tag me and stuff. But I've learned to realize, this has happened and it's gonna happen.
It is. So when we look at how does art highlight current events and address social issues, Malik, if you'd like to speak to this.
This piece is actually dedicated to Assata Shakur. She was a freedom fighter in the 60s, and she was kind of framed by the United States government, such as other individuals like Mumia Abu-Jamal. And so I did a lot of paintings of people who really, we can go all the way back to Dessalines, Toussaint Louverture, people who really fought against the tyranny and terror of white supremacy. And so in this piece, it's like it's really, later the term beautiful struggle helped to really express this series of work, aesthetic ascension. And so Assata Shakur, who is still exiled today to Cuba, she is still kind of warranted to not enter back into U.S. territory for something really she had nothing to do with. But, because the Black Panther Party at the time had created what was called the free lunch program. I was one of those kids eating free lunches in the summer, and went to the, and so because of that, it got shown all over the world that the United States government could not feed its people, that its own people can do better than the government itself. And so they sought after to angle and channel all of its money and time to take down the Black Panther Party, you know. And so because the counterintelligence program and several other, you know, Operation Paperclip and Operation Rainbow and Project Paperclip, things like that, secretive events that were made to help take down a lot of these organizations that helped to show the bad face of America. They utilized their, you know, the alphabet boys to come in and just kind of, you know, try to destroy the communities these organizations were in. Thus, you have the 80s comes in, and, you know, I never forget, I've never, you know, I haven't spent the day in the prison, and, but I do remember walking in the neighborhood and seeing vans filled with guns. Like, never saw the van there. Somehow it was parked for a while, and when you look inside, there's tons of guns inside of it. Or the trains would have, you know, drugs inside. So it's those types of things that I remember growing up and seeing a lot of things, along with the struggle of, you know, being in a financially impoverished area. And so that's what kind of birthed forward a Assata Shakur, who felt she needed to fight for freedom. You know, in the term Shakur, many people may know Tupac Amaru Shakur, who actually his name, his mother, who I knew personally, who named him Tupac after Tupac Amaru, who actually was an indigenous Aboriginal, is what I like to say, who was here and fought against the tyranny as well. So it was quite an interesting time to grow up in, and I have close relationships with, you know, Bobby Seale, Pat Brown, and many of the others who I know personally that that kind of look to me as being the next generation to, you know, set things straight and build greater relationships.
Speaking of that, right?
Yes, Richmond. So reparations now, you know, that is all based upon the Ma'afa. What I'm going to show you here, I have another, one of my other pages here, and I'm just going to open that up right now and let you kind of see what that looks like there. Hold 1 second. Hold 1 second here. Let's switch this around so you guys can see. Let's see, turn it around. Can you guys see this here? Okay, there we go. So this here is a this slight delay here, but I'm trying to show you guys. Those are masks. Those are my alpha masks that I created, and those masks were created in dedication to the concept of the Great Tragedy. And tragedy that happened here in America was based upon the several Black communities. There were over 60 Black communities and towns that were built and operating at the level of a San Francisco, and but they were burned down and destroyed during the time of you know, in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 30s, and you know, and on and on and on. Just kind of, you know, you had Eatonville, Florida, very good, bustling town, torn down, and the idea of it was built in other places, highly populated with dominating population. They just didn't want to be turned into, you know, not being able to do anything. So did a lot of stealing of patents and just a ton of things that really happened with trauma. And so this concept of reparations is really to engage the community. Did a series of these neighbor sort of communal murals where people can come together and hear the voice of Black people. At the time, a lot of people know of Black Lives Matter, and I was often asked, would you be willing to do a mural that says Black Lives Matter? And I said, well, I have some other things to say that is often not being heard by the Black community. And I figured since there were so many allies of people that wanted to hear from the Black community rather than just Black Lives Matter, these were some of the sentiments. So as you can see in the other photo, there's me holding Invest Black, and I'm standing on the street there in San Francisco, where that area right now has that actual drawing on the ground. It's about 550 feet long, and we had about 300 people out painting that whole area there in San Francisco. So it's really, I have another one in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, which says housing Black. You know, the action of the city needs to be about housing everyone, including Black people, you know, that mostly struggle in that area in the Tenderloin. So now the city is actually looking, and then interestingly enough, the state is looking at reparations now, right?
Yep, I just saw that.
So it's, I don't know if it's because of the murals, but it did happen after the murals. So
did. We're going to give you credit, Malik.
Well, you know, I'm glad that, you know, I can take part in the voice, you know, because a lot of times we're being misconstrued and our voices are being demonized. And so often when our voices are being heard, it's being seen as we're being irate or difficult or, you know, or just arguing for no reason, when really there's a lot of trauma we've been dealing with. So, you know, I listen to the voice of our young today, and and even though our voice may not understand our elders, I try to be that conduit to help them understand, help the elders understand the young, and help the young understand the elders, so that there can be some cohesive relationship again.
We thank you for that. I just want to do a time check. It's 7:59, and I wanted to ask if the panelists would be willing to talk another 15, 20 minutes.
I'm open.
I'm open.
Yep, I'm available.
Okay, great. Because I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk. And so, and this is another piece of Malik's.
This is Aesthetic Ascension series. This year, I actually completed this series of work. It's a total of 20 pieces that I started in 2002. And this year, I finally finished the last two pieces that I created.
It's 8 o'clock.
To complete for this entitled, that's my computer.
Okay, I'm like, was that my computer? Thank you, Malik. You woke me up. You got me going. Thank you.
Then when you say 8 o'clock?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So with that being said, this particular series is based upon the Olympics, where you had you know, the Olympians who stood in just a fist, just as the same thing that Colin Kaepernick kneeled. You know, he didn't run in the middle of the field and throw eggs at everybody. He just simply kneeled, and then maybe almost a year later, you know, the whole nation is uproar on a knee on the neck of a man. You know, the same knee used as a weapon to kill someone, and actually killed someone in that process. So, you know, it's just showing the double standards that often is that we're often dealing with, trying to just be humans in this society. So this here is really just talking about this concept of Harambe. Harambe is a Swahili term that means let's all pull together. And so Harambe is often what you see, as you can see that there's the Ethiopian flag colors in the two, and then the centerpiece is the Marcus Garvey red, black, and green Black Liberation flag, which is actually an American flag. A lot of people don't know, but the red, black, and green flag is actually an American flag that was made in the 30s by Amy Garvey, who helped stitch that flag together. And that flag influenced most of, pretty much all of Africa's flags. They all have some remnant of red or green or black in it. And so so he actually did go to Africa, and you know, as in terms of as how he exists, you know. But and that's Marcus Garvey, who never went to Africa. That was sort of what I meant by that. You know, Marcus Garvey, his idea was to go to Africa, but he never actually was able to make it to Africa due to America kind of stopping him from flying and things like that.
I could see that as a large-scale mural someday.
Yes, yes, that's actually something I would like to do, is be able to put it on a quite large. I do have a lot. I think earlier you showed a mural that I was able to take part in, which is about 12 stories high, and we definitely were able to pull that off. But I am interested in doing some large murals. I just these days, a lot of the murals are aerosol murals, which are really great, but I'm not an aerosol artist. I'm you know, I actually do classic murals in a sense, and no negativity to the aerosol murals. I'm actually a classic muralist in that sense, that the murals will stick around for 50 years, so at least.
And hopefully we will also too.
There is a such thing, right?
Thank you, Malik.
Thank you, thank you.
Tiffany, and you highlighted this earlier. How does art highlight current events and address social issues? But if you could expand on that.
Sure. For me, I try to, I document the emotional aspects of what it feels like to navigate, you know, this country and the world. So I think for me, I'm documenting it from the perspective of how are these social events and social issues addressing my emotional health or my mental health. And in order for me to just kind of navigate all of this external turmoil, I have to stay grounded in you know, in things that keep me me. So I want to say, like, for this painting specifically, I was emotionally affected by, you know, the things that were happening in this country and the way the world responded. And for me, in order for me to kind of get myself back to center, you know, I had to do my spiritual work, which is, you know, to meditate and pray, and also to make art. So I don't necessarily document what's going on in the world directly, but I do try to process it and make it something, make it more of a universal conversation, or a conversation that is everlasting outside of this specific point in time, or this specific, this particular event.
like laying the framework or foundation.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when I'm saying something like we are our ancestors, you know, it's specifically in regards to, you know, fighting systematic oppression. You know, this is, we hope that this will end at some point. You know, I would like to see it end before, you know, I leave this planet, but it is an ongoing battle. So it's not just going to be one particular incident that's going to change the world. It's going to be a series of incidents and how we respond. And when I'm saying something in regards to, you know, staying grounded and remembering that we are our ancestors, that's something that you can tap into at any point in time when these issues continue to come up, because they're not just going to go away overnight.
Yeah, I think that brings up when I saw this, I cyber stalked you, Tiffany.
Oh man.
Right? And you know, one thing I have to show off is
you got it. Yes.
sorry, I'm not going to model it, but I did get it. So
no worries.
If you want to just talk about that.
Talk about the coloring book?
Yeah.
Or the t-shirt or okay.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. The coloring book was something tangible that I had to create to get going. You know, I had taken these art classes. You know, I didn't finish my art education. I was thrust back into, you know, a regular corporate 9-to-5 working environment. And I promised myself that I would not abandon my creativity and my art as I entered back into the workforce full time. And I started, I challenged myself to do a 30-day drawing series. And originally it was something that was like in response to my playlist that I use when I'm painting. I was, you know, I had this huge grand scheme of, you know, taking a song and doing my interpretation of the song and a drawing and all of that stuff. And it just warped into this, into something completely different. And this was like, the coloring book was basically like my subconscious just taking front and center. And from the coloring book, I want to say that is when I kind of like gave myself permission to be an artist and to call myself an artist, because I had something that that I completed. I had something that was tangible. I had something that I could show people. And it just really made me feel accomplished. And when I started looking at all of the themes in the book, I can, like, looking back at it in hindsight, I see that like those themes are still there in my paintings now. This cover one was actually, it's really funny because I had a different cover, but I actually reverted back and added this one because this was my favorite drawing from the book. And the cover is called, the image is called One Way. And when you think about, you know, human beings, of course, we're made of all of this. We're made of stardust, right? So I consider us to be our own planet, our own world. And everybody is a world within a world. And we're all trying to figure out how to move through this thing. We're all trying to figure out our way. We're all trying to get to a destination. We're all trying to figure ourselves out. And I had all of these worlds, all of these women's in this one world, like pointing in different directions, because in their mind, you know, they thought their way was the way. So yeah, I call it a displaced, it's a perspective of a displaced African soul, because I just think that African Americans we've been so traumatized and it's embedded in us. And we are navigating a world with an incorrect GPS system,
Yeah.
you know, internally. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, get that spiritual kind of, you know, slap upside the head, and some people ignore it and some people follow it. I chose to follow it, you know, and art was my gateway into me understanding myself, you know. So woo woo, God damn.
Oh, you're probably like, she found that. Hey, Jenny. Thank you, Tiffany. So Tony, if you can speak to, you know, how does art highlights current events and address social issues? And you touched on that earlier with the people hate you in this image.
Yeah, I mean, you know, growing up with, and especially now, being on social media is so big. And that's definitely the main platform I use to get my ideas across, as well as reach out to people, as well as connect with new artists. You know, I get to see all these feelings, you know. On the one hand, I have about 70% or 60% of my friends on social media are from Fresno, and 40 are from the Bay Area. So I'm getting this clash of views. And you know, it's kind of, you know, it's a unique perspective, I would say, entering one town and then where you can eat inside and people are just not really caring, and then just getting the Amtrak coming back over here, can't even go inside anywhere, can't do anything. And it's just, it's what I wanted to highlight with these art pieces was well, I wanted to get out of Richmond. I was finally able to do so in August when I took a trip to Lake Tahoe, to Reno, to Sacramento, to Auburn, Roseville, a few of those towns. I went through, and it was, I gave myself permission to finally go out, you know, and it was very liberating. I was kind of at home, dealing with all these emotions, so not just from COVID, but being an essential employee. You know, that took a tremendous toll on myself too. I remember the second week after after that initial 15-day close down, you know, I worked for a big corporation. No instructions were provided, and that's the title of this one on the right here, is instructions not clear. And I was following CDC guidelines. I literally had to grab a roll of blue tape and put it on the floor at the location where I worked at to mark 6 feet apart. And you know, at that point, I didn't care who was gonna say, "Hey, you're ruining the floor, the carpet." You know, it was one of those things. And in April, unfortunately, you know, a very close family member ended up relapsing on drugs. And it was you know, it was hell. It was hell. You know, my parents are elderly, you know, figuring out where they're going to get their food with them not wanting to go out. There I was on the Amtrak again, heading to Fresno. So on my days as being an essential employee here, on my days off, going to Fresno, loading up their car with food, getting it to them, coming back to the Bay Area, just going back and forth with the camera. So, you know, the art, I've kind of been able to work through that pain, through that pain, and just make stuff. I always like to make stuff, and I'll always keep making stuff.
Yeah. I appreciate how you connected that, connections to both places that are like home, and the differences between those and the contradictions between those two locations, and just trying to exist within those two places, right?
Right. Yeah. It's I'm happy that I do have some people that do support me tremendously, that check in on me and all that. I've been able to create through that and through them, and just showing people and showing up. I guess showing up is the most important part. Showing up for myself and showing up for others, and reaching out to others. I love helping out when people reach out to me and want to learn how to do tips and tricks with their camera. I'm, whereas before I would be like, no, I got a lot going on. I don't consider myself as good enough. But if this year has taught me anything, is that you don't have to wait for anything anymore. You have to just do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for sharing that story, Tony. And if you want to just
Oh, there's that rack logo I was talking about earlier.
there you are. Nah, but there's the logo.
There it is. So I do a lot of graphic design work. This bottom right is in a lot of schools, elementary schools. Made that for Mindful Life Project. And, they do great work, help kids with mindfulness and meditation, which I'm sure is a blessing this time around. So it's very comforting to know that, sometimes I go MIA for a few months, but my art is still out there in schools helping kids. Recently I've been contacted by a few political campaigns, which has been nice to see my work out there on flyers and stuff. And just to be able to say, just to see my work, and, even though a lot of people just pass by it, but I'm just like, hey, I did that.
You're like, I'm going to give myself props. I did that. And the commission thanks you for this amazing logo, because none of us would have been able to figure out how to do that.
Thank you.
It was pretty pathetic what I came up with. So thank you, Tony. So I know that we're at 8:19, and are the artists okay with talking to finish up this last round of questions? Tiffany? Yes. Sure. Tony? Okay. Malik?
Yes.
How the heck can we support artists now into the future? Can you give us the magic formula to this?
The major part of supporting is just what Tony was talking about. I started my career out doing logos, and big up on your trips to Fresno, Tony. I spent most of my son's life going to pick him up from Fresno, so I definitely know what it's like coming from the Bay Area to Fresno. It's like a 2 to 3 hour drive if you're in, so it's definitely a real, it's worlds apart, definitely. On the other note, really supporting artists these days is through their social media. My social media handle is Malik's Art, and we have things like Venmo and things of that sort. I think the best thing for the future, though, in terms of my experience of trying to get my art out there and being a self-taught artist immensely, is, like I have Google has purchased some of my work, and architectural companies have purchased my work for their buildings. So those are the ways that we as artists can be able to move ourselves into places like that. I've done logos. Like I said, I started my career out creating logos. So, doing logos, city designs, and having the artwork there for children, especially now since they're doing Zoom. utilizing the artist's work to, you know, kind of beautify the screen so that they have something to look at it rather than just a whole bunch of words. You know, I think this is the best way now to begin engaging. I've been hired by, well, I'm possibly going to be hired by Oakland Unified School District to teach a semester at the Oakland School for the Arts. Get my area set up. There's a really clear way that I can be able to show the work that I'm doing without having any mishaps and things like that. So I definitely want to talk with you closely, Tony. May have to sit down and have a real good shindig. And don't want you to come out with hurting shit, but definitely have that in with that. I think the major thing is also, you know, we have things that are being promoted on the on traveling on you know, on the buses and things of that sort. So those are ways that we can actually get that artists can be promoted and supported. How I support myself is I create things, I invent things like art products, things like pillows. I'll show you one here.
Yay.
This is one of my pillows here, and so this is my Hug a Baby campaign. You know, where, you know, you take the pillow and hug the pillow. You know, and I'm with me, right? And then also I have magnets. I'm well known for my magnets that I created over 15 years ago. And so I have several collectors of my magnets all over the world, from San Francisco. And, you know, the magnets are like $5. But, you know, I think the major thing is social media.
Yes.
Follow the artist on the social media. Get people to, you know, pick those numbers up with the social media. And through the numbers, we can kind of be able to speak to our audience, you know, people who are genuinely there to support the artists. You know, we have radio shows, all different types of things that can be, you know, artists can be interviewed, you know, online, and these types of interviews. This is the new wave now, and I think we need to hug this really tight so that artists like ourselves can continue to be available to the public. And for artists, many of us, we don't really like being in the public. We enjoy being in the studio.
Yep.
So, you know, talking to a lot of people, and I think as artists, it's going to be more incumbent upon us to become more people persons, which means that, you know, we have to get enough work created so that we can feel comfortable about talking. And so I'm creating at least an average of 2 pieces a day. And so I'm always keeping something going. There's my tiny portraits that I'm doing, a series of tiny portraits here. Get a chance to see that there. I'm also creating carvings, wood carvings, and stuff like that. And I'm creating small work because the small work, you know, a lot of people don't have a lot of space in their room. You know, they don't have a lot of space where they are. And so even though they may have the money, they don't have space, you know, because we're already struggling with the rents as it is. You know, a lot of people are struggling in that manner, but they want to collect. I had a client today who called me, and she wants to purchase her first piece of artwork in her apartment.
Yay! You know? Woohoo! Good.
So I do things like layaway and just making it as comfortable as possible for them to be able to make the collection is really important. You know, so I have some clients that it took them 2 years to pay the piece off, but it's fine just as long as they were able to get it. That's the major thing. You know, so just making it available to them, because, you know, the art itself goes far beyond the money that it's charged for, you know.
It is.
And of course, I'm creating these blue ink trees, and these are all meditations of artwork that that I have created over the years.
These are incredible drawings, and I'm probably the one that likes them all the time when you post them on Instagram. They're incredible, Malik.
Thank you, thank you. And then I can share something else here. Let's see, try to see if I can share my screen.
Mhm.
Well, I don't want to do too much of that because I know I don't want to take up too much time of what other people are going to do.
Well,
And follow me on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram doing things such as going live. I think it's really important as us as artists, the way that you can support your fellow artists is to go live with them, and that way your followers will get a ring on the person that you're going live with, and then they will see you talking together. Those types of things are really great too, especially for those who are on Instagram and Facebook and things of that sort, but especially Instagram.
I think you make a great point of how that networking, how artists need to support each other and build those networks to really grow. And you've been very masterful of that, Malik. Just the fact that you have the experience and life experience, but also like knowing how to run a art business. And you have to be a smart business person to protect your art. That's like something I tell my students all the time, that it is uncomfortable, but the way you protect your work is by, having to know what to do and to stay making art. And,
the thing I always tell artists is in a lot of my compositions, my name is hidden in the composition. So if someone tries to replicate a piece, I will be able to go to it and spell my name. And so that's really that's hidden. So the composition is set in such a way that I could be able to point to how my name is spelled in it. So without even a signature at the bottom, even if they just went and showed it, it's just all the way clear there. That's really important. And then I don't really get bothered by people being inspired by my work. I have a lot of people who, in terms of not so much being inspired, but borrowing the ideas that I use in my work. But once they use my ideas, the way that I make things, it has my signature in it. So
Yep.
I always make sure I hide a signature somewhere without blatantly writing my name.
Protecting your concept.
Yes, yes.
I think when you think of how can artists continue to be supported, and I showed this last week, but really having opportunities and grants that continue out there and that are available to artists.
Yeah.
I think that is important, but then you also have panels that can outreach to the community, and that they're not continually picking the same people and artists over and over again, which you can, that's another 12-hour discussion that I can rant on and get real crazy about. But I think that's where you start reimagining the panels and the selection committees that are making these decisions.
It's true. I think the major thing is that, a lot of these panels are political.
Yes.
So, if you're trying to get into a particular museum show, they want a specific demographic because they're pointing to a specific, for a reason they have these shows, and so what I've learned to do is create my own career so that I don't worry about anyone destroying it.
Yeah, and you bring up the great point, is that there's a certain aesthetic.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's safe and reliable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have to counter it.
Yeah. A lot of it's minimalism and also fraternizing. That's just the real thing that we deal with. Folks want to often bring their friends in. They'll vote for their friends, rather than someone who can actually, bring some people in. But a lot of this you know, when we talk about galleries, galleries are about business, right? So it's about what they can sell versus what they can display. And so it's really important that we create where our artwork can pay rent, right? So if you can create some type of product that will help the people who love your work to purchase your work, because not everyone can, especially these days, you know, afford purchasing a piece of artwork. So that's why I'm always creating something small enough for people to collect, and also it's not big of a price as a huge painting that might go in someone's
You're
foyer.
making it approachable, and I think that's important. When work doesn't end up becoming approachable, it loses it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Tiffany, now that we went on that rant, that we could go on forever, any suggestions of how we can solve this? How can artists be supported now and into the future? In a perfect world? Yeah.
I think you guys pretty much, you know, said it all. I think the main takeaway is to support the artists and their offerings. A lot of people don't understand, and maybe it's because we don't put it out there for everybody to see. Not that we should have to, but a lot of intention goes into making art, goes into making merch and products. Sometimes we spend money just to learn. So I think if you like what someone does, if you support their vision, if you support their point of view, you know, then, you know, buy from them.
Yes.
If you're not in a place to collect work, buy some merch. You know, I think along with supporting their offerings, you know, if a good opportunity comes your way, pass it to them. You know, I think just making sure that the people that you enjoy are available to continue to make the work. So yeah, if you like what they do, find a way to support them either directly or by way of opportunity. I think it's best. Yeah.
I love what you said about passing it on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's vitally important, and also going beyond that selfish behavior, right? Where people don't understand that passing it on is important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
I think that's really important, especially if you can pass it on to young people. They will take it and run to the sun with it. You know, the average child you share your work with is going to remember it 5 years from then, and then by that time they'll be a teenager, and 5 years from then they'll be an adult. So you know, you really invest into the future by showing and sharing your art with them, because they're going to loyally carry those moments with them.
Yeah, that's why I just believe in giving people one damn chance, you know, equal chance, you know, and how that, you know, that's why with the Neighborhood Mini Grant program, just giving people that chance, and it ends up, you become a reference, you become a recommendation, they, you know, have that in their portfolio, and then you see all these other things, you know, people just need a chance. Tony, now that you've heard us rant, can you just close this up and tell us, how can we solve this problem?
Sure. Well, you know, Malik is definitely right. He is definitely right about that social media thing. I know when I joined the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission, I was 21 years old at the time. You know, joining the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission, I had access. I became part of this huge email list, right? This huge email list but the thing with that is that those email lists were only coming to me. I didn't, you know, So what I would try to do is try to, screenshotting an email and putting it on your Instagram story is not the best way to do things. Not everyone has an in-house graphic designer that can make it into a legible way or anything like that. So I remember just doing my best to try to scan these emails and remember who did what, or just put it into a way to where I had someone ask me a question. So one of my biggest things when I joined the commission was, how do I get this new information that I now have available to me? And I know that a lot of people don't. And it's not on purpose. I'm not saying that there's some sort of secret
Yeah, yeah.
network of artists. It's just, it's an email list, and everyone's getting their information from Facebook and Instagram and things like that, of that nature. So that, that's definitely one way. These is one of the ways that I think we can definitely improve on is how do we change communication to fit 2020 and the way people are thinking now and are digesting news. The second part and thing that I do personally on my Instagram is I'm an open book on there, super transparent on what I do. I share with my followers and friends my routines daily. They know when I made $0 today. They'll know later on tonight that I made $91 today, and that hopefully I'll make $22 tomorrow from some business card designs that I'm going to do. They know that. They're going to know that. They're also seeing what I'm doing. It's simple. I have a whiteboard I got on Amazon for like $7, and I just made some boxes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, things like that. They'll ask me questions. Some guy was like, "Hey, next time you go out and shoot," it's like, "I just graduated high school. I got this camera, but I'm kind of scared to go out and take pictures." And I was like, "You know what? Join me next time I go out and take pictures." I got paid $50 for that gig. I gave him $10. Just things like that is just really some people don't have much, maybe their friends are into something completely different that they are. They're shy to ask their friends to express what they like to do to their friends. I grew up with an older brother who wanted me to be a certain way and dress a certain way and listen to a certain music. He wanted me to be him, and I feel like there's a lot of people like that, and just being open and inviting or seem inviting, give that inviting presence like I try to do. And I'll even tell them when I've had a bad customer experience or when I've had good customers experience. Is just, I try not to be secretive or pretend like everything is good. Everything is not good. And if you follow my stories, I made $0 for about 4 days this week. So, things of that nature. But ultimately, it's going to come down to social media and to build that presence, and just to, when someone comes asking for something, is just be genuine, tell them you don't know. If you do know something, tell them something, When I joined the commission, I know as part of that email list, there's a lot of opportunities for myself.
Yep.
And it was, I thought I was in opportunity heaven there. But I also felt the duty to pass on these and tell everyone, as many people as I could about it, to get them, because I felt like I was in a privileged role there, getting all these emails, these wonderful emails, but passing those down. And I think it's going to come, especially city-wise, if we fill all these seats that are vacant on the commissions with a diverse crowd, younger crowd, someone to, and I keep coming back to these emails, but someone to decipher these emails, decode these emails, and really bring them down to social media and just sprinkle them down that way. And I think if we get this fusion of, older versus newer, eventually we'll come to some sort of greater communication system in which everyone knows what's going on, or everyone who wants to know what's going on can know what's going on.
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant analysis, Tony, of how we can communicate and how we can do that. Are you sure you're only in your 20s? Are you sure?
25 this June.
As I think about it, I may have to look into possibly coming to the Richmond Arts Mission.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to each one of you. I know we went over time, but it was worth every minute. And we had a fabulous conversation. If we went another hour, it'd probably even get more interesting, but we want to stop before we get into trouble, too much trouble. Next week, there's going to be myself and Rebecca and Tatiana speaking, but thank you for being the highlight of my week, and the work you do is incredible, and don't ever stop, okay? And Malik, will you please end us the talk with your tagline?
Absolutely. Remain creative.
Woohoo! Remain creative. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank